What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio and welcome to the Draftkings Picks and Prediction Show. This week, we are without Monk. He'll be back next week, but we are here with Weezy and Luke and be breaking down UFC Vegas 52 from a DraftKings perspective, going through our targets, all the good stuff, and then also giving our picks at the end. Weezy, we'll start with you. Looking forward to this card.
Definitely. This is a good one, man. DraftKings, gambling-wise, action-wise, I think it's a really fun card, and we got a pay-per-view next week. So I think this is a great way to ease into that pay-per-view, try to get some money, playing some DK, playing the bookies this week, and I like some spots here, so I can't wait to chop it up with you guys.
Yes, sir. I think it's going to be a very fun week. Luke, how about you? Are you looking forward to this card?
For sure, man. We've definitely had some pullouts, but definitely a decent amount of violence, some interesting matchups. Not the highest level card in the world, but yeah, looking forward to it, bro.
And as always, we're going to take a look at our lineups and see how we did last week, see who won, and all the good stuff. And we're going to take a look at the current standings. Reminder, last place has to get a Caio Bahaio neck tattoo, #free spirit. Cannot wait to see who gets that. So we'll tune into that later in the show. But first, as always, if you guys can please leave a like, subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. We go live every Wednesday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. So be sure to tune in each week. All right. So we'll start with the fight to target as always, and I'll kick it to you, Weezy. What is your favorite fight to target for this card?
Yeah, I mean, it's Jourdain Wright is on this card, so you got to target that fight. So it's Jourdain Wright versus Marc-André Barriault. Jourdain Wright is scoring 6.04 DraftKings points per minute, and he's allowing 8.57 DraftKings points per minute. All these guys' fights finish in the first round or the beginning of the second round. You know, whoever wins this fight is most likely going to be optimal. Barriault is a tailor-made opponent for the type of guy that you want to see fighting Jourdain Wright, and that's somebody that's going to be durable. Until the Cheaty fight, this dude had never been finished in his entire career. So, you know, maybe that was a one-off. But yeah, Barriault is got a great gas tank. He pressures his opponents. He stays in your face, and he uses his cardio as a weapon. So that's a great style for Jourdain Wright. But then Jourdain Wright, on the other hand, he is definitely somebody that comes out and just tries to start you in the very first round. So whether he wins or whether he loses, whoever wins the fight is going to be optimal here because of the style that Jourdain Wright brings. So I think it's a fight you have to target both sides of, because we just saw Barriault get finished in the first round in his last outing. He's less than 3 months removed from that performance. So, you know, I think they're both live, and I think they're both live to score over 100 points depending on who wins.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I had the same thing. Marc-André Barriault is 8,600, Jourdain Wright 7,600, and especially at these price tags, right? Like, you got to think if the winner has a really good chance of finding its way in the optimal lineup. I think somebody does get finished one way or another. You have Jourdain Wright, who's kind of a killer, be killed fighter. Has never been over 1.5 rounds. Has been to the second round twice. He's going to go out there trying to kill Marc-André Barriault. Maybe he gets him, maybe he doesn't. If he doesn't, you know, Marc-André Barriault probably gets him out there later in the fight. So I'm also going to give Monk was kind enough to send his notes as well. He also had the Barriault Wright fight, and he also added the Pedro and Villanueva fight, saying someone is going to get finished. So right now we have the Jourdain Wright fight and also the Pedro fight as well. Luke, which fight are you going to be targeting this week?
Yeah, I'm going to the main event with Lemos and Andrade. There's obviously a lot of other fights that have better inside the distance line, making them, you know, viable targets as well. But I do think there's a good amount of finish equity in both. And I do think a lot of the other ones that do have finish equity, it's very lopsided towards one fighter, whereas this one, I think you can make very viable arguments for both. The fight is also projected to end inside the distance at roughly 66% of the time, which is short in my eyes, especially factoring in the 5-round nature between both girls. Their fights don't hit the card 76% of the time, which is something that you really just don't see very often between two girls in the smallest weight class in the UFC. Lemos hits incredibly hard. Andrade isn't exactly known for having the greatest striking defense in the world, in that I think that Lemos is very live for a KO early, but it's also probably front loaded to probably 5 to 10 minutes, which is obviously a good thing from a DraftKings perspective, because if she wins, you're definitely going to be getting a lot of points from Lemos, and she will definitely 10x at 7.3. On the other side, you know, it's a massive step up in competition against a girl Andrade, who's been fighting perennial top competition for damn near the last decade, who also hits incredibly hard. You've also got some offensive wrestling potential with Andrade, who lands nearly 3 takedowns per 15 minutes as well. So if Lemos can't get Andrade out of there early, Andrade is going to pace her, landing over 6 significant strikes per minute, opposite of Lemos's 48% striking defense, which is very, very bad. So I like Andrade to finish her along the way if that doesn't happen. You could also be getting some leverage to the field in the sense that they look at it as a 115-pound chick fight or whatever that can't finish, whatever, from any more casual players. So I'd be pretty surprised if one of these girls does not find the optimal lineup this week.
Yep, completely agree with you there. Let's move on to our fight to fade. We will start with you, Weezy. What fight are you fading for this week?
So this was a pretty easy one for me. I'm going to go with Khandozhko versus Grant. It should be a low-scoring striking affair that should go to a decision. Very little grappling and control time upside for either fighter. Grant, over a 7-fight sample size, is scoring 1.96 DraftKings points a minute. That's DraftKings death. That's a guy that's scoring less than 60 points in a decision win at that rate. And then Khandozhko, it's really hard to know where this dude's going to be at. We saw him fighting on the ACB scene there for like probably a few years. He was very experienced coming into the UFC. Only 2 UFC fights against Akhman and Khabibulov. And, this guy does tend to be a striker first. He does mix in the wrestling every once in a while, but, we don't really see him going to it enough. It feels like a low volume, and Grant just kind of like brings this style that's very confusing. It's very odd. So I think it just, it's kind of hard to get into a rhythm against him as well. So yeah, I don't see either one of these guys scoring a lot of points. I think it's an easy fade.
Yep. Once again, Weezy, I have the same exact thing. Grant Khandozhko, same exact, feelings there. It's going to be a low volume fight more often than not, although Bootsy does like Grant. And if anything, it's going to be Grant for the power. But I kind of see this fight being slow paced. I kind of see it going to decision, and I kind of see it not scoring very well. So yeah, I'm with you. Pretty easy fade for me on a fight where we have a bunch of fights projected to finish inside the distance. This one is actually not. It's plus 125. Last time I checked, fight doesn't go. So I'm with you there, Weezy. Luke, which fight are you fading for this week?
Let's complete the trifecta. I'm going Grant Khandozhko as well. Third worst ITD line on the slate, roughly 45% implied to finish. What I will say, though, if you are making large field builds, I wouldn't outright fade the fight just because Grant has shown large power components. And we have seen him obviously put up some stinkers just because he's low volume and doesn't wrestle. So you guys kind of touched on that. So I wouldn't outright fade it in the sense that he could definitely knock out Khandozhko here, but I'm kind of with you guys as well that it's probably, more of a lower volume striking affair. But you got a guy in Khandozhko who does have a healthy number of finishes, but I don't think he's overtly powerful at the same time. He primarily struggles with his defensive wrestling and grappling, but Grant's a guy who just doesn't wrestle and hasn't shown any real grappling upside. He's got no submission wins as a pro. Khandozhko also hasn't been knocked out since 2013 when he was 19 years old. So I'm more so of the opinion with you guys as well. It's a lower volume striking affair that hits the cards, which is not going to do it on the slate. Once again, wouldn't outright fade because a Grant nuke is possibly live and he could break the slate in kind of that weird funky scenario. But overall, it's just not a great fight to target in terms of what we're looking at for DraftKings.
Yep, and looks like Monk agrees with us as well. So all 4 of us going with this fight to fade. Very interesting stuff there. Let's move on to our fighter to fade. And Weezy, we'll start with you. What fighter are you fading for this week? And I think you're muted.
We could fade like 6 fighters this week. There's a lot that I would like to fade, but Chase Sherman has got to be the easiest selection this week. If you're going to punt, do it with Jackson, I guess. Sherman got drowned by Fat Collier. Just imagine what Romanov is going to do to this guy. Romanov is actually a guy who gets takedowns and who wrestles and who uses his top control to finish fights. Fat Collier is a guy who's just a boxer, and he actually got the takedown and drowned this dude immediately afterwards. Chase Sherman looked absolutely god awful off of his back. And, he's taking this fight to get back in the UFC. And they basically were like, hey, if you take this ass whooping, we'll give you another 3 fights after that. And you're not going to make that kind of money fighting in BKFC or someplace else. So he took it, but this is a terrible matchup for Chase Sherman. I mean, like it's an easy punt. This is not. I mean, like you do not want this guy in your lineup this week.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I won't have much Chase Sherman. I won't have much Mike Jackson as well. The fighter I did go with is actually going to be Maycee Barber at 9,000. I really don't like the price tag for a couple of reasons, but the most important reason is I'm going to want to go up to 9.6K, and I'm going to get as much Romanov as possible. I want to go up and get a lot of Jéssica Andrade. I want to go up and get a lot of these 9K fighters. Richie Long, 9,100. So I just don't think I'll be finding my way to Maycee Barber this week. I think she could win, but if she wins, I don't really see her going for takedowns. I don't really see her getting a knockout. And again, there's so many great plays up in this 9K range. So Maycee Barber is going to be a fade for me. Luke, how about you? What are you fading this week?
Yeah, kind of a cop-out answer for me as well. I think Sherman's obviously a viable option, but I'm going Jackson at 6.7K. Really, all you need to know is that Jackson just isn't a real fighter, and he's still taking on a green guy in Barry nonetheless. I understand that, but at least Barry's been a part of the Irish national kickboxing team, and a guy who is an actual fighter and does this full time. Barry's over 90% implied to win the fight as a whole. It's a pretty small slate, so it's one of those spots where it's like I don't even want to waste a roster spot on Jackson at all. And even people talked about kind of the size discrepancy between the two, like pre-fight, because technically Barry is going up. But there was a photo released earlier on Twitter today of both guys standing next to each other at the pool. I mean, Barry looks pretty decently sized right next to Mike Jackson too. So I ain't taking that narrative at all. I want nothing of Mike Jackson at 6.7K. You're burning the barrels there, boys.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Monk put Dwight Grant, and then he also put Mike Jackson as well. So yeah, like Monk said, there is better, salary relief fighters down at 6,700. They're going to be staying away from Mike Jackson and some Chase Sherman down there. But we'll move on to the favorite dog of the week, and I think there's some solid options here. We'll start with you, Luke. What is your favorite dog this week?
I'm actually going Felipe Lins at 7.8K. It's a pretty high variance fight in full transparency, but Lins actually has the best inside the distance line of any dog on the slate at roughly 33% implied to finish. He's got an 86% finish rate in his W's against a guy in Prachneo who's been finished in 80% of his losses, 3 of which coming in the UFC. Lins has some pretty fast hands in the pocket, and he's also going to have a 4-inch reach advantage in the matchup. And I'm still really not sold on this narrative that Prachneo has this ironclad durability, despite his recent successes. Lins is also coming down from heavyweight, and he's shown he can carry that power all the way up at heavyweight as well. So there's that. He's also a black belt in jiu-jitsu who has a handful of submission wins. So in the event that this fight does hit the ground, he does have a pretty distinct grappling advantage as well and can finish the fight there. The reality is Prachneo still eats over 4 significant strikes per minute, which is a healthy number of shots, especially at the bigger weight classes when these guys are going to swing. Assuming Lins isn't completely washed, he has an excellent chance to win this fight. There's definitely some boomer bust nature there. I understand it. But I think with the layoff, I think he might get some lower rostership, especially with Prachneo, quote unquote, looking better, in recent years. But it's a fight between two big boys at the end of the day with immense amount of finishing power. Give me, in terms of a value-based take from a salary perspective at 7.8 versus 8.2, it's Lins all day for me here. And lastly, we've seen Lins actually take some money in terms of the money line, and we might see this line flip come fight day where Lins actually closes a favorite on the money line too. So you might be getting a little bit there.
Yep, sounds good to me. And I think that fight as a whole is kind of a sneaky one to target with 8 out of 10 of their losses coming by knockout there. For me, I'm going to go with the Beverly Hills Ninja, Jourdain Wright, 7,600. He's going to come out there and he's going to try to finish Barriault within the first 60 seconds. And he is actually somebody that is live for that 60-second bonus. So I like Wright. I personally think he's going to lose, but you just can't ignore the upside. Like Wright, if he's going to win, it's going to be by knockout. It's going to be by first round knockout. Barriault got knocked out 2 months ago, coming back a little bit too early. I like me some Jourdain Wright, but this is a fight I'm going to be like nearly 100% own on. I think somebody does get finished very early. But yeah, Jourdain Wright, I really do like the upside there. Weezy, who's your favorite dog this week?
Yeah, and the price is right on Wright as well. I mean, because it's hard to find guys this week, because everybody's going to be targeting, the Dean Berries, the Quillangs, the Tyson Pedros, the Romanovs, the Andrade. You know, it's hard to find that salary relief this week. So, I mean, I'm going to go with Montana De La Rosa here. I like her wrestling upside. She spends over 50% of her UFC cage time in control time positions for and against. So, you know, in this particular fight, you know, I can see why people are on both sides of this fight. It's very interesting, you know, because Maycee's done really good in the striking exchanges. And when she's pressuring her opponent, she's very good. And she's got a lot of power too. But Montana's kind of shored up her striking recently, and it's looked a lot better than it has when she first came into the UFC. But like, I still don't think she's entirely comfortable on the feet. And in this particular matchup, I think that's a very good thing. Maycee Barber, very interesting. In her UFC experience, she has never seen a fight where she has seen more than 2 takedown attempts. So this is going to be a different stylistic matchup for Maycee. And it's going to be interesting to see how she handles it, because Montana does have that wrestling background. She is very good on the ground with her Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And she's scoring 3.38 DraftKings points per minute, you know, and so, I mean, I think this could be a sneaky spot to get some high upside grappling from a low-priced underdog here, and it might be the kind of matchup that she can actually win, because we just haven't seen Maycee have to defend takedowns at all thus far in the UFC. Never more than 2 takedown attempts against her in any single fight. So we're going to see her wrestling defense today, on Saturday, and we're going to see if it holds up.
Sounds good to me. And Monk does agree with you on that. He likes Montana De La Rosa, saying the $7,200 is crazy for her. She does score 3.38 raw DraftKings points per minute. And he said her ceiling is around 109.32. And then he also likes Amanda Lemos, huge scoring upside in a win, and then tons of salary relief. So some good dogs there for sure. Let us go to our favorite GPP play here, tournament play. I will kick us off. And yeah, like I said, I'm going to build lineups this week, and I'm going to try to get as much Alexander Romanov as possible. I know the salary is terrifying at 9,600, but you know, I struggle to see how he does not go out there, pick up Sherman, slam him down to the mat, and submit him or knock him out shortly after. You know, Sherman coming in on short notice, couple days, like it's not a good look there. You know, Collier took him down and finished him easily. If Collier can do that to you, Weezy, like you said, you know, what is Romanov going to do? I think Romanov has the highest ceiling on the slate here, and I'm going to try to get him, like I said, in as many lineups as possible. But yeah, that 9,600 is going to be tough, but I think you got to try to get as much Romanov in their line. I mean, he's gonna shave Sherman's ass for sure. So I like Romanov there. Weezy, who are you liking for your tournament play?
Yeah, I mean, I put Romanov as well, but there's a lot of good options up there. And I mean, I guess you really don't need me to tell you why Romanov is a good play this week. Why not, you know, like even Tyson Pedro, Ike Villanueva has lost 13 times in his career, and I think like 11 of them are inside the distance or something like that. And Pedro is, you know, good on the feet, but he's even better on the ground. So that's another guy that could get the job done. Quillang up at 9,100, Barriault at 8,600. These are all really good high upside GPP plays this week. And, but Romanov in particular, man, to see Fat Collier take this guy down and finish him in the very first round, and then have, and then your very next matchup is against a guy who would murder Fat Collier in the wrestling, 10 times out of 10. So, this is just a nightmare matchup for Chase Sherman. No wonder they had to give him a 4-fight deal to accept this fight on short notice.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like you said, that 9K range is stacked. You got Romanov there, you got Dean Barry, you got Richie Long, you have Tyson Pedro, you have Andrade up there as well. So I think it's going to be very interesting in terms of the lineup construction this week. Luke, who are you liking for your GPP play?
First and foremost, I don't want to hear more disparaging on the Michelin Man's name. Fat Collier is a great individual. I don't need no more of that out of you boys. I'm just but I'm actually going to go down to the mid range here for GPPs. Obviously, all those like top ranges, our top range options are excellent as well. But I'm actually going to go Barriault at 8.6K. He's got the 5th best inside the distance line on the slate at roughly 40% implied to finish. He hasn't been known as, the biggest pure power guy, throughout his run in the UFC, which I concede. But the recommendation to a lot of Weezy points earlier is more so based on the guy who's across from him in Jordan Wright, who is a very kill or be killed fighter. He eats 8.29 strikes absorbed per minute and defends at only 38%. I mean, your defensive numbers cannot really get much worse than that. To be honest, I don't know if I've actually seen worse defensive numbers than that over a guy who's had multiple fights in the UFC. Wright's only been out of the first round once in 14 pro fights, whereas Marc-André Barriault is much more proven in an extended affairs in terms of winning minutes. He did get knocked out in his last outing, but he also did get clipped behind the ear. You know, it's a pressure shot that's going to drop a mule, so I don't really take much away from that, which I do think is some context that's being lost here in that. But prior to that, you know, Barriault hadn't been finished in 24 fights spanning amateur and pro. So you got a guy in Barriault who's consistent to throw volume, has good cardio, is historically very durable, and fighting a guy with no defense in Jourdain Wright. So in relation to Barriault's price tag at 8.6, when you know, don't necessarily have to pay up to 9K for his potential upside, I think he's a great GPP play at 8.6.
Yeah, and I think the ownership on some of these mid-range plays are going to be very low. Like everybody's going to go up top and get those studs up top. So I do like that call a lot. Looks like Monk is right there with you, liking Marc-André Barriault. Hits hard, scores very well and wins, and its opponent is glass. Saying Jourdain Wright is glass, and I agree. And then also he likes Charles Jourdain, and he scores 109.12 DraftKings points per win, 3.25 raw DraftKings points, and possible finish upside. So he's like a Marc-André Barriault and then a Charles Jourdain. Let's go to our favorite cash play here. And yeah, there's a ton of options as well. Weezy, we'll kick it with you. Who you liking for cash this week?
I'm going with Ari Chalang here because, and it's another situation where his opponent is what you're playing here. And Else is a first round or bust guy. And Quilang's got a serious chin on him. Solid wrestling, solid gas tank, heart for days. And he pressures his opponents too. I think he's going to drown this dude in the second round. I think we're going to get some really good value here for 9,100. Plus, he's moving up from 125 to 135 pounds. This guy was a gigantic flyweight. So, you know, I think that maybe we might even see better conditioning, more durability here out of Quilang. And when you've got conditioning and durability and the ability to be able to defend a Darce choke, I don't see how Cam Else beats you. So I do like Quilang quite a bit here.
Yep, I like that call. And as of now, when we give our lineups, I do have Arichi Long in there as well. But I'm also going with Tyson Pedro, 9,300. I think he shaves Ike Villanueva's ass in the first round. You know, Ike Villanueva, this guy's been finished like a million times by knockout, by submission. I guess the only concern is Pedro has not fought in nearly 4 years, but he does look good. I checked his Instagram. He says he has been training. If he shows up and looks anything like he should look, I think he should win pretty easily there. So 9,300. I like him. I like Arichi Long. I like Romanov. In terms of cash, I'm going to try to go up there and get as many of them as possible. And, you know, Pedro's definitely one of those guys. I think he finishes in the first round and has a ton of upside. Luke, who are you liking for cash this week?
Yeah, I'm going Romanov. Obviously, you know, 9.6, you got to pay up a decent amount for him, but you guys kind of touched on it with even your GPPs. He was obviously scheduled to face Tanner Boser withdrew in steps Chase Sherman, who has been cut for the second time in his last outing a couple months back, but is now going to be entering his third UFC stint at a whopping 3-8 in the UFC. Me and the boys were talking about this before the podcast started. I legitimately don't know if there is someone who's had more than 10 UFC fights that has a worse record than Chase Sherman. I'm sure there might be some stat nerd out there who might be able to check me on that, but I legitimately don't think there's someone who has had.
Yeah, I think we lost Luke there for a sec.
Luke, Luke, you there?
He just froze up. Damn.
While we're waiting, Weezy, talk more about Fat Collier. It's hilarious.
Dude, Luke said was not going to stand for the slander anymore.
Crap,
and I
did.
don't
Sorry,
want to
Luke.
disrespect the man. But
My bad, Luke.
No, is he back? No, okay.
I don't think so.
I was going to actually check those stats because I'm just
talk about Mike
into
Jackson.
Yeah, you know, this one is an interesting because you know he is 3-8, Sherman, and to have that kind of a record, to have 5 more losses than you have wins, and over 10 fights. It almost never happens at the UFC level, almost never. So it's pretty bizarre. And, you know, I mean, especially at 265, you're not going to find anybody with even close to a winning percentage that bad. I mean, it's almost hilarious, you know, to even suggest that it would go that way. But let me just look in terms of fights.
We got Luke back. Luke,
Okay,
you're back.
cool.
Sorry, boys.
You're good.
But yeah, I was essentially just finishing up my point. Chase Sherman sucks. His gas tank is not good. So when you're going to get a guy in Romanov who's going to sit there and chuck heat, throw a ton of takedowns when Sherman's in here on less than a week's notice, I mean, it's just complete nightmares. There's a ton of safety in Romanov. Sherman isn't a gigantic hitter at all. So him and Cash is like a plug and play for me.
Yeah, I think he gets smoked. And hopefully that we get like a Hunsucker Sherman fight of the year candidate there. But yeah, I don't know who, like Sherman, like I just can't picture him getting another win in the UFC. I just can't. I mean, maybe Hunsucker would be the one guy, but Weezy, did you find that out yet? Anybody worse?
No, I mean, I'm looking in the heavyweights right now, and I'm just kind of like looking at who's got the most losses, you know, and then who's got the worst record amongst those losses. And I mean, you can't even find, I mean, it's Sherman and everybody else. I mean, it really is. I mean, like Luke completely nailed it. I mean, nobody's even close to Chase Sherman in terms of losses here. I mean, it's not even close.
That's he's gonna get another one this weekend for sure. We'll move on to our favorite value play. I will kick this one off, and I believe it was you, Weezy, that talked a little bit about Montana De La Rosa. I really like her as a value play this week, 7,200. I feel like this is a very close fight. I feel like in terms of DraftKings salaries, especially, like these salaries are way off. And I feel like Montana De La Rosa, if she does win, it's going to be takedowns. It's going to be control. And on top of that, we need some salary relief, and there's not a ton of pump plays I do like, but I really do like Montana De La Rosa. I think she has the best chance out of those pump plays. I don't like the chances of, fighters like Jackson, Cameron Else, fighters like that. But I do think Montana De La Rosa can make this close and can score really good, especially for cash games. I love Montana De La Rosa for cash, but I think even in tournaments, like she has some upside there. Luke, who's your favorite value play for this week?
Yeah, I'm going Lemos at 7.3K. I touched on it a bit with my fight to target, but she is the 5th cheapest fighter on the board with the 11th best inside the distance line. I am more so of the opinion that Andrade survives, takes over the fight, finishes her later, making Lemos, very boom or bust. But once again, if she is to win this fight, it's most likely by knockout, and it's most likely within the first 10 minutes of the fight. So if she does that, Lemos is going to 10x, and she 100% has 100 plus point potential and has her way to the optimal lineup if she's able to do so. So I just don't think you can ignore her upside in relation to her price tag at 7.3. I do actually think amongst active female strawweights, Lemos is number 1 in terms of knockdowns right now as well.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yep, sounds good to me. I will be having some Lemos myself. Weezy, how about you? Who's your favorite value play?
Yeah, it's Lemos. I mean, it's not even close, really. 7,300 finish upside, 5-round fight, landing a knockdown on 2% of the significant strikes that she lands. And Jéssica Andrade has been finished in 5 of her 7 UFC losses, you guys. And Amanda has nasty powers in her hands and her feet. Don't forget about that front kick that she caught Angie Hill with in the first round, man. I mean, like, Angie Hill is ridiculously durable, you guys. Never been knocked out in the UFC, okay? That kick would have knocked out just about damn near anybody. Maybe not Cachoeira, because Cachoeira's got a brick for a head. But other than that, I think that kick finishes pretty much damn near everybody in the division. So, yeah, I think that Amanda Lemos is a great way to save money, very safe way to save money in a 5-round fight. And there's a lot of upside here. And I think the tales of her conditioning being really bad are a bit overblown. That fight with Angela Hill was a 3-round war that was super high paced. And I never really saw Lemos out of it conditioning wise. So, yeah, she's a great option this week.
Yep, I like that as well. And then Monk went with Montana De La Rosa. as well. So we got Lemos and De La Rosa down there for some value. Let us go to our dart throw, and we'll start with you, Weezy. Who are you liking as a dart throw this week? Again, there's a ton of options.
Yeah, real easy one. It's not on the slate yet, but it's Preston Parsons. He's a very high upside finisher, very short notice opponent that is only beaten low-level regional scene competition. Since he was a late add to the card, he might be lower owned than some of the bigger name options here. But you look at Preston Parsons' record, even his regional scene wins and losses are really good. Everybody that this guy has been fighting is better than everybody that his opponent has been fighting and beating. So I really believe that this is a great spot for him. And he is another type of guy like Pedro, like Romanov, that has a lot of finish upside here. And potentially we might be getting him cheaper than those guys. But his opponent is coming in on only 3 days' notice. So, it's hard to know where they're going to price this one. But you guys, Preston Parsons is a great option for this week.
Yeah, still waiting for the salaries on that and still waiting for the line on that as well. But yeah, I'm with you. I do like me some Parsons in that fight in general. For me, like I said, there's a couple of different options here. I'm going to go with Cameron Else, 7,100. This guy is the definition of kill or be killed, the definition of round one or bust. He has 10 wins, all of them coming in the first round. If he does win, it is safe to say it will be in the first round. He is a BJJ black belt, does have some submissions, has some power as well. Richie Long has been submitted, I think, 3 times. So I think Else is live in that first round. If he does not win in that first round, I think he definitely busts. But give me the round one upside there for Else. And then on top of that, Monk is liking Jourdain, right, saying all he needs is one. And then saying Ike Villanueva, saying KO power. And then this is more of a fade on Pedro's possible ring rust there. So we got Wright, Villanueva for Monk there. Luke, who are you liking as far as a dart throw?
Yeah, I'm going with you boys in DLR at 7.2K. Pretty bad inside the distance line at plus 500, but in her UFC Ws, she scored no worse than 81 points on DraftKings. She's taken on a girl in Barber who does have pretty evident striking, aggression, power advantage in this fight. But DLR is one of the few girls out there who actually does come from a traditional wrestling background and is a brown belt in jiu-jitsu as well. We still haven't seen Maycee Barber really aggressively wrestled much in the UFC, but Roxy actually was able to get her down pre-ACL tear. I think that's something that needs to be noted. People see, that Barber tore ACL in the fight, and they're like, oh, that's why she got completely washed on the floor. It's like, yes, that's part of it, but she actually did get taken down prior to her tearing her ACL and controlled too. So I think there's a little caveat there too. We also saw Miranda Maverick get to Barber's back at the end of the second round. And the one thing I do like for Montana is that she's a girl who will go out there and maximize her win equity in fights, attempting roughly 7 takedowns per 15 minutes. When she's won, it's come via wrestling, it's come via grappling, it's come via submissions. She's a dart throw for me because I don't still know how much success she can have on a physical girl like Barber, where even if she does get Barber down, can she control her? I'm not really sure, but when this fight's at space, I do think Montana gets beat up pretty bad, to be honest. So it just kind of comes down to what amount of control success can she have? Can she potentially submit Barber? But given the style dynamic and us not really seeing Barber have to face that really volume of takedowns against a good wrestler in DLR, I do think she's live in this fight, and I do think she has the potential to put up, a 90-plus point score. Even if she doesn't, I do still think there's a path for DLR to make the optimal lineup because we do have so many boomer bust dogs on the slate in the Wrights, in the Lemoses, the Elses, these type of guys, where if they all bust, it might just take a W and a nice little 75 points from Montana De La Rosa at 7.2 to get you to the optimal.
Yep, sounds good. I'll be having some De La Rosa for sure. All right, guys, what we're going to do now is we're going to go over our lineups last week. We'll go over the current standings. I just want to remind you guys, the loser does have to get that Kyle Bahio neck tattoo, hashtag free spirit, or change their legal name to Blood Diamond, or have that Patty Pimplet, Children of the Damned haircut. So we'll see the standings right now. And also, while we're doing this, if you guys have any questions, type them in the chat. We'll get to them very, very soon. So last week was a wild week. We had in last place Luke with Close, Luque, Omargadziev, Ogden, Ronson, and Kroom, scoring 251.82. In third place looks like Monk with Sabatini, Budai, Baeza, Bohayo, Mohammed, and Knight, scoring 412.96. In second place was Weezy with Sabatini, Budai, Baeza, Bohayo, Mohammed, and Andalusa, scoring 428.13. And in first, we have me with Sabatini, Budai, Luque, Garcia, Muhammad, and Kroom, 459.26. I think that was my first place ever. I got like 5 second places in a row. Finally got first. It feels good. So hopefully keep that up this week. We have the standings here through 12 cards. In last place is Weezy with 5,030. In third place is Luke with 5,118.49. And second place is me with 5,301.67. And then in first place is Monk with 5,364. So I am 1.97 DraftKings points behind Monk. Luke is 185.15 DraftKings points behind Monk. And then Weezy is 273.64 DraftKings points behind Monk. So it is all fairly close here. But Monk is currently the winner after 12 cards there. So what we'll do now is give our lineups for this week. And I'm sure they're going to change. We still do not have the salaries for the Parsons fight. But Weezy, do you have a lineup for right now?
I do, yes. So I've got Romanov, Qualang, Barriault, Lins, Lemos, and De La Rosa.
Okay. Luke, what do you have for this week?
Yeah, I'm probably going to be changing mine at some point because I didn't see what the Romanov salary came in before. But for right now, I'm going Pedro, Aori, Andrade, Lins, Mudaerji, and De La Rosa.
All right, for me, I'll go Arichi Long, De La Rosa, Lemos, Pedro, Romanov, and Mudaerji. And then let me pull up Monk's here. He said he's probably going to change this as well. Pedro, Kape, Barriault, Jourdain, Lemos, and De La Rosa. Other than that, we'll take a look at some questions. And PSSA saying loser this week has to fight Romanov with 4 days notice with Keith Peterson as the ref. That would not be a good thing there.
Do you guys want a show anymore? You guys trying to kill us?
He would kill all of us. You could put all 3 of us in there with Romanov and he would destroy us, man.
Oh my goodness. Especially with Peterson, like a drunk Peterson.
Oh God, Keith Peterson would probably be like kicking our ass too.
Yeah. Weezy, thoughts on Lando Vannata as a punt or a dog? We didn't really
like Lando. I do like Lando this week. I think he's got some value. That fight, we didn't talk about it at all. It should be an absolute banger. I can't wait for that fight, to watch that fight. I don't have a great read on it, but look, Lando Vannata coming down from 155 to 145, had his first fight at 145 against Grundy, looked great in that fight. And a lot of people are saying that this has been his true weight class all along. So we might be seeing, a guy in Vannata who's been in the cage with guys like Bobby Green and, really some of the better UFC lightweights that we've seen thus far. So I think that this is a step down, actually, for Lando Vannata, and that he can mix in some wrestling here as well. We saw him actually take down Grundy and stop takedown attempts from Grundy. Excuse me. So I really think that Vannata is actually a decent option here for if you have a little more salary and you don't need to go down to like 7,100, 7,200. Vannata is a fine option this week because it's going to be a very high-paced, close fight.
Yep, sounds good. Luke, any interest in Vannata yourself?
From a DraftKings perspective?
Yeah.
It's one of those weird ones because both guys are going to just sit there and throw a ton of volume and have poor striking defense. Honestly, I think it's like a 3-round war that goes to decision, which is why I kind of am trying to stay away from it from a DraftKings perspective. But both guys are live to finish at the same time with their poor defensive tendencies. Both have been hurt before, so I wouldn't be shocked. It's honestly one of those potential like slate breakers. To be honest, if you have a really strong read either way, I do think there is a chance that the fight finishes 100%. But yeah, it's a weird one.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not gonna have a ton of it, but I do think it's a good fight in general to watch. So we'll go over our quick picks. We will start with Monk here. Monk has... He said he's picking Mike Jackson. I don't know if that's right, but he said he's picking Mike Jackson. All right. Philippe Lins, Arichi Long, Tyson Pedro, Dwight Grant, Marc-André Barriault, Charles Jourdain, Manel Kape, Montana De La Rosa, Claudio Puelles, and Amanda Lemos. Weezy, who are you liking for this week?
Okay, I'm going to go with Jéssica Andrade in the main event, but I think Lemos is very live there. Going to go with Clay Guida. Alexander Romanov is actually Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the year, not of the week, not of the month, but it's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the year. And I'm it's not just because I want revenge on Chase Sherman for making me look like an asshole getting subbed by Fat Collier. This has nothing to do with that. I am not an emotional, jealous person or anything like that. This is about business. But yeah, Romanov big time. I'm going to pick Montana De La Rosa in an upset, Mudaerji in an upset, going with Vannata, Preston Parsons, Marc-André Barriault, Khandozhko, Tyson Pedro. Arichi Lang is actually Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. I think that he's going to get it done over Cam Else. I like Felipe Lins, and I like Dean Barry.
All right, for me, I'm going to go with Dean Barry. I'm going to go with Prochnio, Arichi Long, Pedro, Dwight Grant, Marc-André Barriault, Preston Parsons, Charles Jourdain, Manel Kape, Montana De La Rosa, Romanov, Puelles, and then Jéssica Andrade. Luke, what are your picks for this week?
Go Lemos, Guida, Romanov. I think upsides with De La Rosa. I think Barber edges it, though. I'm going to go Kape. I think upsides probably with Sue. But I'm going to go Jourdain, Parsons, Barriault, Khandozhko, Pedro, Ayori, Lins, and Barry.
Sounds good. All right. I think we covered everything mushroom-like in the ass shaving of the year there. Yeah, I cannot wait for that fight. But Weezy, let everybody know where we can find you, what you have going on throughout the week.
You can find me on my YouTube channel, Uncle Weezy. Every Tuesday night, I do a full card breakdown, just a tip with Uncle Weezy. I'll be going live tonight after the Club and Sub podcast with Luke, 10:30 Central Time for either an Ask Weezy or for a balls deep breakdown on either the Sue Mudaerji fight or the Maycee Barber fight. And you can find me on the MMA Engine YouTube channel. Brady and I will be doing a show tomorrow called Probability, where we give you a data-driven look at the over-under and the fight goes and fight doesn't go to decision lines. For every fight on the slate, we compare the fighters' statistics to the divisional finish rates to the implied probability of the lines, and we try to find some value so that we can get some good over-under spots there. Just thank all you guys for hanging out with us on Pub Sports Radio and watching this show. And let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 52.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Luke, how about you? Where they can find you and what do you have going on throughout the week?
Yep, Club and Sub podcast tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern with my boys. Actually, I think Lagsnot's gonna be with us tonight, so we're gonna go me and my boy John breaking down the card from a betting perspective. Patreon.com/SWR betting, bets, content, all that fun stuff there. Twitter SWR_betting as well. Hoping to cash a couple tickets on PFL tonight.
Yep. Good luck with the PFL. Should be a fun card. Should be a very fun card. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing where they do put the Preston Parsons salaries there. But yeah, you guys can find me DFS_numbers on Twitter, Instagram, DFS by the numbers, YouTube, DFS by the numbers. And then, like Weezy said, me and him will be on the MMA Engine YouTube channel doing probability. Cannot wait for that show. But yeah, that's about it, guys. Leave a like, subscribe, all the good stuff. We'll talk to you very soon. Good luck for UFC Vegas 52. See you guys.